Welcome to Lento Business English. Ready to level up your business English? Here we learn through stories, slow, clear, and fun. Listen, relax, and enjoy the journey.
1. Introduction. The United States is led by President Trump. This is his second time as president. During this period, an important discussion has started about a very old and significant law. Many people, including those in government, are talking about it. This law has a special name from the Latin language, Habeas Corpus. These words mean you should have the body. This phrase might sound unusual, but the idea it represents is very important for freedom and justice. What does habeas corpus mean for people? It is a basic right. It means if someone is arrested or put in detention, they cannot just be held without a good reason being checked. The detained person or someone helping them can ask a court to look at their situation. They ask a judge to see if their detention is lawful and fair. A judge then examines the case. The judge decides if the government has a legal reason to keep the person. If the detention is not lawful, the judge can order the person's release. So, habeas corpus protects people from unfair imprisonment by those in power. It ensures a court, not just officials, decides if keeping someone locked up is right. This is an old and basic protection. Why is this old law being discussed so much now? The main reason is that some people in the government are thinking about changing it. There are ideas that the right of habeas corpus might need to be suspended. This means it would be stopped for a time. Supporters of this idea say it might be necessary in very serious situations. For example, they say it could be for national safety. They also suggest it might be needed during big problems like a rebellion, when people fight against the government, or an invasion, when another country attacks. This discussion is very serious. Habeas corpus is a core protection for everyone. It is a key part of a fair legal system. If this right were suspended, people could be held without a judge checking if it is legal. This could greatly change how justice works and how freedoms are protected. Many people are watching this discussion. They want to understand what suspending habeas corpus could mean for individuals and the country. It is a debate about keeping the country safe and protecting people's freedom. 2. A big idea is talked about. Stephen Miller is a top helper for the president. He shared a new plan. He said the government is thinking about stopping habeas corpus. This is an important legal right. It lets a person ask a judge to check if their detention is fair. Mr. Miller said the U.S. Constitution allows this right to be stopped. This can happen in special times, like a rebellion or invasion. The government suggests this plan might be needed for the country's safety. This big discussion started because of some recent events. Judges have been looking at actions taken by the government. The government wants to control who enters the country. It is also trying to remove some foreign students. These students often express opinions that the government does not like. For example, they might write articles or speak out. The government feels that courts sometimes stop its plans. Mr. Miller said that much depends on whether the courts do the right thing or not. This shows the government is sometimes unhappy with court decisions. There are court cases happening now. People are using habeas corpus to challenge the government's plans to send away migrants who do not have official papers. Sometimes, judges agree with the people who are detained. For instance, a judge ordered a Turkish university student to be released. This student was kept for 6 weeks after writing an article. The article was critical of Israel. Another judge ordered a student from Columbia University to be freed. This student was detained because he supported Palestinians. He used habeas corpus to ask for his freedom. However, in other cases, judges have agreed with the government's reasons for detention. So the courts do not always decide against the government. Mr. Miller described habeas corpus as a privilege. He also said that Congress, which makes laws, had already passed a law. He believes this law stops courts from having power over immigration cases. But not everyone agrees with Mr. Miller. Some legal experts and critics question his understanding of the law. They say the rules might be different from what he explained. For example, one lawyer stated that only Congress has the power to stop habeas corpus. He said the president or Mr. Miller cannot do this. Some news reports also suggest that the president himself is involved in these talks about habeas corpus. This new plan is causing a lot of discussion. People are wondering what will happen next. 3. What is this old law? The name of this old law is habeas corpus. These two words are not English words. They come from a very old language called medieval Latin. Many years ago, people used this language for important writings, especially about laws. If we translate habeas corpus into English, it means you should have the body. This might sound a little strange. What body does it mean? It means the person. So the law is saying that someone should bring the person, the actual individual, to a court of law. These words, habeas corpus, are now a well-known name for an important legal right. So what does this legal right, habeas corpus, actually do? Imagine someone is taken by police or government officials and put in prison or kept in a detention center. The person might feel they are being held unfairly or that there is no good reason for them to be locked up. Habeas corpus gives this person a chance to challenge their situation. It allows them, or someone like a lawyer, to make a special request to a judge. They ask the judge to look into why they are detained. The law says a court can order the official keeping the person, like a prison boss, to bring that person to the court. This means bringing the person physically to the judge. When the person is brought to court, the judge has an important job. The judge needs to find out if the detention is lawful. This means the judge checks if government officials are following all rules and laws when they keep someone in prison. The judge will ask questions. What is the reason for holding this person? Is there enough evidence? Are their rights respected? The judge looks carefully at all information. The main purpose of this check is to decide if the imprisonment is correct according to the country's law. It is a way to make sure the government does not hold people without a proper legal reason. This right of habeas corpus is a very basic and important rule. It is a key part of protecting people's freedom. It helps to stop governments or officials from putting people in prison whenever they want, without any checks. Think of it like a shield protecting individuals from unfair imprisonment. Without habeas corpus, people could be arrested and kept secretly, and no one could ask why. This law makes sure any detention can be reviewed by a court. It is an important idea for fairness and justice. It helps to make sure everyone is treated by the law, even if accused of something. It also means a court, not just the arresting officials, decides if keeping someone locked up is right. 4. Courts and people. This old law is very important for people. When someone thinks they are kept in a place like a prison, and it is not fair, they can use this special law. It is a way to ask a judge to check their situation. The judge will then look at why the person is being held. The judge decides if it is right for the person to be kept there. This helps make sure people are not locked up without a good reason. There are real stories about how people use this law. For example, a student from Turkey was studying at a university. He wrote an article that was critical of a country. Because he wrote this, he was put into detention for 6 weeks. This student used the special law to ask for help. A judge looked at his case. The judge decided that keeping him was not right. So the student was released and became free. Another story is about a student at a big university called Columbia. This student was speaking out and supporting people from Palestine. Because of his actions, he was also detained. He was not free. Like the other student, he used the special law. He asked a judge to check if his detention was fair. The judge studied the case. Then the judge ordered that this student should also be let go. So he too was freed from detention. These stories show the law can help people get free, but it does not always happen this way. Sometimes, a judge listens to why a person is detained. The government might tell the judge it is important to keep the person for certain reasons. In these situations, the judge might agree with the government. If the judge agrees, the person might have to stay in detention. So using the law does not always mean a person will be set free immediately. This means that courts and judges often have difficult choices. They must listen carefully to both sides. They listen to the person who is kept. They also listen to what the government says. The government might say keeping someone is for safety or because of rules about entering the country. Judges need to think about the law and what is fair for everyone. Making these decisions is a big job for the courts. Today, many people are using this special law. There are many cases in the courts. These cases are often about people the government wants to send out of the country. Some cases involve students who say or write things the government disagrees with. The government sometimes feels that courts stop its plans. These court cases are important. They show how this old law works now and affects people and the government. 5. The president's view. President Trump has always talked about immigration. One of his main ideas when he campaigned was about people who come to the U.S. He said he wanted to send many immigrants out of the country. This was an important promise. Now, in his second time as president, his government is still working on this. They are trying to make deportations happen more quickly. Deportation means sending people back to their home country. The government wants this process to be faster. They believe this is an important part of their plan. The president's team is looking for methods to speed up sending people out of the U.S. They want to remove people they think should not be in the country more quickly. Sometimes, courts stop the government's plans. For example, judges make decisions that slow down deportations. This can be frustrating for the government. They feel these court decisions make it hard to do what they want. So they are looking for solutions. They want to carry out their policies without these court delays. There are reports that President Trump himself is thinking about the old law, Habeas Corpus. These reports say he is part of the talks about this law. It seems he is interested in how this law could affect his plans. His top helpers are also looking at this law. The discussions are about whether changing this law could help the government. The president wants to be able to act on his policies. He is looking at possible ways to do this. This includes thinking about old and important laws. President Trump has spoken about this situation. He has not used the words habeas corpus himself in public, but he has talked about court decisions that stop his government's actions. He said he wants to find strong ways to deal with these court orders. These orders are often called injunctions. He believes there are methods to reduce the problems from these court actions. He mentioned that some respected presidents in the past used a certain way. He said he hopes they do not have to use that same way. This shows he is thinking about powerful actions. The president talks about strong ways because of court challenges. His government has faced situations where judges stopped their plans, especially about deporting people. For instance, a judge once stopped the government from using an old law to deport over 200 people. Deportations are happening, but sometimes they are slower than the government wants. The administration is looking for ways to make sure their immigration plans can move forward. The president's comments suggest he is serious about finding solutions for his policies. 6. Looking back in time. This important law, habeas corpus, is not new. The idea of stopping it is also not new. In United States history, there have been a few times when the government suspended this right. This meant that for a short time, people could not use habeas corpus to ask a judge about their detention. These were often very serious times for the country. One important time this happened was during the American Civil War. This war was in the 1860s. It was a war inside the country between northern and southern states. Abraham Lincoln was president. It was a time of great trouble. The nation was divided. President Lincoln suspended habeas corpus in some areas because there was a rebellion. The government believed it was a necessary step for safety and to help win the war. It was a difficult choice during a big crisis. Another time habeas corpus was suspended was in Hawaii. This was after Pearl Harbor in 1941. Japan attacked this American naval base in Hawaii. This event brought the United States into World War II. After the attack, there was much fear. People worried about more attacks or an invasion. The government in Hawaii suspended habeas corpus to protect the islands and keep order during the war. This decision affected many people there. It showed that in wartime, governments sometimes take strong actions. Habeas corpus was also suspended in the Philippines. This was in the early 20th century, around 1905. At that time, the United States controlled the Philippines. There was unrest and fighting in some parts. The American government there suspended habeas corpus. They believed this would help them control the situation and stop the fighting. The U.S. was managing a territory far away. This showed how the U.S. governed in places it controlled then. The right of habeas corpus was also stopped to help fight a group called the Ku Klux Klan. This was in the 19th century after the Civil War. The Ku Klux Klan used violence and fear against others, especially African Americans. They did many bad things. The government wanted to stop them. So, in some areas where the Klan was active, habeas corpus was suspended. This was to protect people from the Klan's violence and bring members to justice. It was a way the government tried to deal with a serious internal threat. These examples show that suspending habeas corpus has happened before. It usually occurred during very difficult or dangerous times, like wars or big internal problems. It is a very serious decision because it takes away an important protection for people. 7. Who can change the law? When we talk about changing a big law like habeas corpus, a very important question comes up. Who actually has the power to do this? Can one person, like the president, decide to stop this right? Or is this decision made by a different part of the government? Understanding this is key because habeas corpus protects people. The main set of rules for the United States is called the Constitution. Think of it as the country's most important instruction book. This book was written a long time ago, and it explains how the government should work and what rights people have. The Constitution talks specifically about habeas corpus. It says that the right to habeas corpus can be suspended or paused. This can only happen in very serious situations like a rebellion or an invasion when the public safety needs it. But who makes this decision? The Constitution is very clear on this point. It states that Congress has the power to suspend habeas corpus. Congress is the part of the government that makes laws for the country. It is made up of people who are elected by citizens. So the power to change this important right does not belong to the president alone. The president cannot simply decide to suspend habeas corpus. Many law experts, people who study and understand the law deeply, agree with this. They point to the words written in the Constitution. For example, Mark Elias, an attorney, has explained this. He said that the authority to suspend habeas corpus is with Congress. He clearly stated that neither the president nor the president's helpers, like Stephen Miller, have this power on their own. However, some government officials have a different view or interpretation. Stephen Miller, who is a top aide to the president, has suggested that the president might be able to act. He also believes that Congress might have already passed laws that take away some power from the courts in immigration cases. If this were true, it could mean that courts have less ability to use habeas corpus to check detentions in those specific situations. But many legal experts disagree with Mr. Miller's interpretation of these laws. They question whether Congress has actually limited the court's power over habeas corpus in such a broad way for immigration. This means there is an ongoing debate. The rule in the Constitution about Congress holding this power is a fundamental part of the American system of government. It ensures that such a serious decision is not made by just one person. 8. What happens next? The country is discussing the law of habeas corpus. Changing this old, important law is a serious decision. It is not a small matter. It could affect many lives and change national legal rules. If habeas corpus changes, a person in detention might face a different situation. This law helps people ask a judge to check if they are held unfairly. Without it, or if it is weaker, individuals have fewer ways to challenge their detention. This could mean less protection against unfair detention, worrying those who value personal freedom. Changes could also affect the entire justice system, which involves the government and courts. Habeas corpus allows courts to check government actions. If this check weakens, it could alter the justice system's balance. How decisions are made about imprisonment could also change greatly. The government is seriously considering its options. Officials are actively looking at habeas corpus rules. They are thinking if changes are needed, perhaps for national safety or in difficult times. This discussion is serious. Real plans might be forming. What will happen is unknown. The future of habeas corpus is undecided and depends on factors like court actions. Will judges agree with government reasons for change or protect the law? A top government helper suggested the next steps depend on whether the courts do the right thing or not. This shows the government is watching courts closely and highlights disagreement. The president has also spoken on these issues. He has not directly said he wants to suspend habeas corpus, but he said he is looking for strong ways to deal with court decisions stopping his government. He mentioned one way that's been used by 3 very highly respected presidents before. He added he hopes we don't have to go that route. These words make people wonder what strong actions the president might be considering. Many people are discussing these possible changes. Lawyers, politicians, and citizens are part of this important talk. They have different views. Some worry about losing an important right. Others might think changes are needed for national safety. These discussions are happening now. So, what happens next is a real question for habeas corpus. This basic right's future is shaped by current talks and upcoming decisions by leaders. Many await to see how these matters resolve as the country chooses the path for this key legal protection.